So back on the court, Team USA practice. How you feeling?
It was fun, obviously, to get back out there. It had been a minute, so it was just obviously a long and tough year of reoccurring injuries, and you guys know how that goes. When you get one nagging thing, it kind of leads to another. So it wasn't obviously how I envisioned it, and it stunk. But we still kind of found a way. Our team, we had 6 of our players go down with injuries. It was unreal, and we still had a great year. Made it to the semifinals, and yeah, we were a game away from the finals, and so that was pretty impressive considering kind of what we went.
Watch her face when she starts talking about those injuries. That's not just physical pain she's remembering, that's frustration. 6 players on the Indiana Fever went down with injuries during the 2024 season, and Caitlin Clark was dealing with recurring groin and quad issues that kept her off the court when her team needed her most. But here's what most people missed while focusing on her rookie stats. She revealed something about the 2026 FIBA World Cup schedule that's going to fundamentally change how the WNBA operates.
But it was a long process to just get back on the court, because when you have the groins and the quads and whatever you're dealing with, it's you don't run for a while, so it's weird learning to run again in a way. And then on top of that, going to play versus the best players again, and just getting tossed out back into the fire. But it was fun. I probably wouldn't have wanted it any other way. You get thrown back out there with the best players in the world, and you see you're right where you were before you got hurt. And it was only 3 days, so it was cool. And it was at Duke, which is obviously one of the most historic basketball places ever. So that was a pretty cool.
September 2026. That's when the WNBA will pause its entire season, not for the Olympics, but for the FIBA World Cup. And according to Clark, this tournament is historically harder for Team USA to win than the Olympics, because more countries qualify for World Cup competition. The league will stop play at the end of September, send its stars to compete internationally, then resume for the playoffs in October. That means WNBA basketball extending deep into the fall, competing directly against NFL Sunday and college football Saturday for the first time in a sustained way. Think about what that means for the current CBA negotiations happening right now. The Players Association just authorized a strike with all but 3 players voting yes. They're demanding better pay, better travel conditions, better everything. And now the league is committing to a schedule that puts them in direct competition with the 2 most dominant forces in American sports television.
Thing too, and kind of kicks off the next cycle for preparing for the Olympics, and then we have the World Cup in 2026, so at the end of September. So we'll actually pause the WNBA season, very similar how we do when we have the Olympics, right before the playoffs, and then we'll go play the World Cup, which technically the World Cup in the past has almost been harder for us to win because there's more teams that play in the World Cup than qualify for the Olympics.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's harder to win that. So hopefully I'm on the team for that, and obviously my goal is to be on the Olympic team in 2028. So it feels like it's far away, but it's probably actually way closer than it sounds.
Duke's Cameron Indoor Stadium. That's where USA Basketball held its training camp in December 2024, and that's where Caitlin Clark made her return after months of dealing with those nagging injuries. She described it as being thrown back into the fire, 3 days of practice with the best players in the world, after weeks of not even running properly. But notice what she said about the learning curve. It's not just about getting your conditioning back. When you're dealing with groin and quad injuries, you literally have to relearn how to run. Your body compensates during the injury, develops bad movement patterns, and then you have to break those patterns while simultaneously trying to compete at an elite level.
Okay, so she made it very clear. She wants to be a part of that Olympic team. And obviously she was left off of it in 2024. So many of us, obviously, when that happened, that became a story in itself. It got very loud. By the way, there's more stuff in this, so go check out that podcast. But, they're talking later on, it's either before this or after this, about a different basketball player that had a lot of success in 3-on-3. She made it pretty clear in this that she won't be playing 3-on-3 basketball. That she feels like it is not conducive to her style of play. And so the Unrivaled, probably never getting Caitlin Clark. All right, that's probably a wrap. Now, again, I didn't know they would pause.
Now here's where it gets personal. She made it crystal clear. Her goal is to be on the 2028 Olympic team in Los Angeles. Not "I hope to make it" or "it would be nice." She said it's her goal. That's significant, because everyone remembers what happened in 2024 when she was left off the Paris Olympics roster, despite being the biggest draw in women's basketball. The selection committee chose experience and chemistry over star power and popularity, and the backlash was immediate and loud. But Clark's not dwelling on that snub. She's looking ahead to the World Cup in 2026 as her proving ground, and she dropped another crucial detail that most people glossed over: she won't be playing 3-on-3 basketball. During this same podcast appearance with Travis and Jason Kelce, she addressed the Unrivaled League, the new 3-on-3 competition that's been aggressively recruiting WNBA stars with massive contracts. Her reasoning? 3-on-3 doesn't fit her style of play. Translation: don't expect Caitlin Clark to join Unrivaled, no matter how much money they offer.
The WNBA season for the World Cup, the FIBA World Cup, at the end of September. So that's going to be pretty wild, and it's going to be interesting to see. That means we will have WNBA basketball into the end of October. I guess firmly into the end of October. I don't know. As far as we know they're in negotiations right now for a new CBA. Part of that's going to be obviously they're looking to maximize television ratings. That means the WNBA's got to be involved even longer with competing against college football in the National Football League, which is probably going to hurt those ratings a good bit, I would guess. But she's 100% healthy. She made that clear at the USA Basketball training camp, and she's ready to get back.
Let's talk about what she's not saying here. At USA Basketball's training camp, Clark made comments about the ongoing CBA negotiations that were notably different from the hardline stance most players have taken. She emphasized the need for compromise and specifically said the fans want to see them play basketball. That's a diplomatic way of saying she's not enthusiastic about a potential strike. Remember, all but 3 WNBA players voted to authorize strike action. The union hasn't revealed who those 3 dissenters are, but Clark's public comments suggest she might be one of them. She's in a unique position. She doesn't need the WNBA the way most players do. Her Nike deal alone is worth more than entire WNBA team payrolls. She could sit out a season and still make more money than any player in league history. But she's emphasizing compromise and continuity, which puts her at odds with the more militant faction of the Players Association.
I have not heard thus far, because I'm trying to do this and keep one eye on college football today in case there's a video that needs to be made. But I don't know if she gets into the CBA in this podcast. I'm going to look and try to find out if she makes any more CBA comments, because she hasn't said anything. She made it very clear at USA Basketball. She thinks there should be compromise. And we know that all but 3 players voted to authorize for a strike. I continue to have this feeling she is not one of those players, but I may be wrong. But she made it clear, we need to make sure we play basketball. The fans wants to see us play basketball. She's not wrong. She's not wrong there. So, anyway, I thought that was interesting. This podcast, let me just go look.
The New Heights podcast has become the #1 sports podcast in America, surpassing even the Pat McAfee Show and Pardon My Take in total listenership across all platforms. Travis and Jason Kelce built their audience on NFL credibility and authentic brother chemistry, and they've turned that into a media empire. This is Caitlin Clark's second appearance on their show in 2024, which tells you something about her media strategy. She's not doing the traditional ESPN talking head circuit. She's going where younger audiences actually consume content. Long-form podcasts, YouTube, social media platforms. This episode already had 60,000 views in its first 4 hours on YouTube alone. That doesn't count Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other platform. And this comes right on the heels of her Nike commercial. that generated massive buzz across social media. Clark understands something that a lot of traditional WNBA stars don't. You build your brand where the audience already is, not where you wish they were.
As of right now, this podcast already has nearly 60,000 views in 4 hours. And that's just the YouTube side. That New Heights podcast, I think, is the most listened to sports podcast in the United States now. And I'm talking about like on Spotify, actual podcast, the audio side. But it's the number one podcast going in the United States now for sports. And this is her second time being on there this year. A lot of fire coming off of that From Anywhere Nike commercial. A lot of fire around that. So anyway, this is interesting.
January 1st, 2025. That's when the real pressure starts. 8 days from now, the CBA deadline hits, and the WNBA and its Players Association have to either reach a deal or prepare for a work stoppage. The league is in the middle of unprecedented growth, attendance up, ratings up, expansion teams coming, new television deals being negotiated. This is literally the worst possible time for a strike from a momentum perspective, but it might be the best possible time from a leverage perspective, which is exactly why the players authorized one. The core issues haven't changed: revenue sharing, salary caps, travel conditions, maternity benefits, free agency restrictions, but the context has changed dramatically. Caitlin Clark's rookie season brought 3 million viewers to regular season games. Angel Reese, Cameron Brink, and the rest of the 2024 draft class generated more mainstream media coverage than the WNBA has received in its entire 28-year history. The players know their value has never been higher. The league knows it too. Something's gotta give.
By the way, when we turn over to tomorrow, January 1st, officially 9 days. Actually, 8 days and some change for that CBA deadline. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out. Till next time.
Thanks. Here's what makes this moment so critical for the WNBA. The league is simultaneously negotiating its future schedule structure, its labor agreement, its television contracts, and its expansion plans. Every decision impacts every other decision. If they extend the season into late October for the World Cup, that affects television negotiations because they're competing against NFL primetime. If they give players a bigger revenue share, that affects expansion fees and franchise valuation. If they improve travel conditions, that affects team budgets and salary cap calculations. And Caitlin Clark sits at the center of all of it. Whether she wants to or not, her presence in the league drove a 170% increase in attendance for Indiana Fever road game. Her jersey became the best-selling WNBA merchandise item in history within 3 months. Her games on ESPN averaged 1.4 million viewers compared to 440,000 for games she wasn't playing in. The league's entire growth narrative is built on her star power and the star power of her draft class. But she's also the player most likely to walk away if things get ugly. She doesn't need the WNBA financially. She's already secured generational wealth through endorsement. She could play overseas for double her WNBA salary. Or she could simply focus on USA basketball and her off-court business ventures. The league needs her more than she needs the league. And everyone involved in these negotiations knows it. That's why her comments about compromise matter so much. If Caitlin Clark is publicly advocating for finding middle ground while the rest of the union is preparing for battle, that creates a fracture. And fractures in union solidarity always benefit management in labor negotiations. The WNBA's ownership groups are paying attention to every word she says, looking for any sign that the players aren't unified. Now let's talk about the actual basketball. Clark mentioned she's 100% healthy now, fully recovered from those groin and quad issues that plagued her throughout the 2024 playoffs. The Indiana Fever made it to the WNBA semifinals, despite having 6 rotation players dealing with significant injury. They were 1 game away from the finals in Caitlin's rookie season. Think about that. A team that won 13 games the year before Clark arrived suddenly became a legitimate championship contender with a rookie point guard and a roster held together with athletic tape and prayer. Next season, if they stay healthy, the Fever are going to be terrifying. Clark will have a full off-season to work on her game instead of recovering from injury. She'll have a year of WNBA experience, understanding how defenses play her, how referees call her games, how to manage the physical toll of a professional season. Aaliyah Boston will be in her 3rd year, coming off an All-Star appearance. Kelsey Mitchell will be back if they re-sign her. This team could legitimately challenge for a championship. But that's only if there's a season to play. And right now, with 8 days until the CBA deadline, that's not guaranteed. The World Cup schedule reveal adds another layer of complexity. Extending the season into late October means WNBA players will be competing for attention during the heart of football season. The NFL dominates American sports culture from September through February. College football owns Saturday. The WNBA has traditionally wrapped up its season by mid-October to avoid that direct competition. Now they're running straight into it. That decision only makes sense if the league believes its star power can compete. And by star power, they mean Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, Paige Bueckers when she enters the league, and the other young stars who've brought mainstream attention to women's basketball. The WNBA is betting that casual sports fans will choose to watch Clark and company over NFL Red Zone or college football. That's an enormous gamble, but maybe it's a necessary one. The league can't keep hiding in the May to September window, hoping to avoid competition. If they want to be taken seriously as a major professional sports league, they need to prove they can hold audience attention regardless of what else is on television. The World Cup pause gives them a built-in excuse to extend the season and test that theory. Clark's refusal to play 3-on-3 basketball is also more significant than it might seem. Unrivaled is offering contracts worth up to $250,000 for a few weeks of work during the WNBA offseason. That's more than most WNBA players make in an entire season. The league is backed by serious money, has strong leadership, and is actively recruiting the biggest names in women's basketball. But if Caitlin Clark won't play, that significantly diminishes their star power and their ability to attract casual viewers. Her reasoning makes sense from a basketball perspective. 3-on-3 is a different game, more physical, more isolation-based, less emphasis on the court vision and passing ability that makes Clark special. But it's also a business decision. Clark doesn't need the money, and she doesn't want to risk injury or burnout playing a style of basketball that doesn't showcase her strengths. She's protecting her brand and her body for the things that actually matter: WNBA championships and Olympic gold medals. So where does all this leave us? 8 days from a potential labor stoppage. A league experiencing unprecedented growth, but facing serious structural questions about scheduling, compensation, and competitive balance. A rookie class that exceeded every expectation and brought mainstream attention to women's basketball. And Caitlin Clark, the most valuable player in the sport, carefully navigating the politics of CBA negotiations while preparing for a World Cup run in 20. The next few months will determine whether the WNBA capitalizes on this momentum or squanders it with a work stoppage. Whether the players get the revenue share and working conditions they deserve, or whether ownership digs in and forces a confrontation. Whether Caitlin Clark becomes the face of a new era of women's basketball, or whether she becomes a cautionary tale about what happens when labor disputes derail a sport's growth trajectory. One thing's certain: the decisions made in January 2025 will shape the WNBA for the next decade. And based on everything Caitlin Clark said in this podcast, she's thinking long-term. World Cup and Olympics in 2028. Championships with the Fever, building her brand, staying healthy. She's got a plan, and she's not letting CBA drama or media controversy or anything else distract her from executing it. What do you think happens when the CBA deadline hits? Does the union hold firm and risk a work stoppage during the league's biggest growth period? Does ownership make real concessions on revenue sharing? Or does Caitlin Clark's emphasis on compromise signal that enough players will break ranks to prevent a strike? Drop your prediction in the comments and make sure you're subscribed, because when this CBA situation explodes in 8 days, we'll be breaking down every detail.